Welcome to episode 1 of Proper Prepper. On the last episode, I taught you the age-old trick on how to change water into brine. And on this episode, I'm going to share with you my recipe for a vodka sauce pasta. First, we're going to start off with the materials you're going to need. Only 1 frying pan, 2 paring knives, and 6 cups of water. Now, as far as ingredients go, most people would use a nice angel hair pasta and a vodka sauce to top it off. We're going to ditch the angel hair and get rid of the vodka sauce because I got my own recipe. We're going to start out with a nice fettuccine noodle. Yeah, that's a good noodle. For the sauce, we're going to use a tomato soup. But we're not going to use just any old tomato soup. We're going to use a nice condensed tomato soup. Now when it comes to condensed tomato soup, you have the choice of either mixing it with milk or water. Normally for flavor, I would choose milk because it's a little creamier. But in this instance, we're going to use water because if you mix it with an egg noodle, you don't want it to be too rich. For the meat, we're going halal. I'm talking lamb. And to top it all off, we're going to add just a little bit of feta cheese on top. If you're feeling a little crazy, you can put some Havarti on there. But you gotta have the feta. To start it off, we're going to go ahead and open up our lamb. And we're going to start cooking it on high. Once you get a nice color change on both sides, then you're going to use your paring knives to cut it into cubes. Once it starts to smell like burning skin, that's how you know you're cooking it correctly. Now when you see people cooking lamb, a lot of the time you see them using salt to flavor. But I say, stay as far away from the salt as you possibly can. Here's a fun fact for you. Lamb is notoriously the saltiest of the meats. And I have that on good authority. Now that's a salty meat. Once the lamb is thoroughly cooked, you're going to go ahead and lower the temperature, and you should grab that water that you have sitting by. Now the reason we're dipping our hands in water is so when we grab the lamb out of the pan, it doesn't burn us. Here's a fun science fact for you. Fire has to go through water before it can burn you. Make sure there's nothing in your way, and we're just going to set it on the counter for now, and we're going to come back to it later. Now is the point where you're going to understand why we're using only 1 pan. Because here on Proper Prepper, we reduce, reuse, and recycle. So we're going to go ahead and take that water that you were dipping your fingers in, and we're going to use that to cook the noodles and kind of flavor it with that lamb fat. Once you put the noodles in there, you're just going to wait for the water to come to a boil, and then you're just going to cook the noodles like you would any other time that you would cook noodles. Now you may notice by the time the noodles are done cooking that most of the water has been boiled out of it. But that's good because the remaining water is what we're going to use as the mix-in for our condensed tomato soup. Now it's all starting to come together, huh? So you're just going to go ahead and open up the condensed tomato soup and you're just going to layer it right on top of the noodles. And you're just going to let that simmer anywhere from 2 to 20 minutes, depending on how al dente you like your soup. That's a noodle joke. Once you've got your soup heated up to your optimal temperature, we can go ahead and throw that lamb back on top. We're going to let the lamb heat back up, but in the meantime, we're going to add our feta. And I'm feeling a little crazy, so I am going to put Havarti on top, but don't forget the feta. We're just going to go ahead and layer this Havarti right on top. And then we're going to turn the heat up just a little bit so that Havarti can melt. And voila! You have my vodka sauce pasta variant that I like to call a nice condensed tomato soup with halal, I'm talking lamb, with a little bit of feta on top. And if you're feeling crazy, you can add Havarti, but you gotta have the fettuccine. Best served straight out of the pan. And that concludes episode 1 of Proper Prepper. Join me next time when I teach you an age-old trick on how to turn water into brine. Bon appetit and au revoir. It's delicious.